Grab your popcorn and get ready, because today we're talking about some of the best alien invasion movies of the 1980s. This decade wasn't just about neon and mullets. It was a golden age for movies where Earth was under siege, from slimy space invaders, creepy pod people, and even some seemingly friendly faces with hidden agendas. Let's revisit these extraterrestrial encounters. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. The Thing, 1982. This movie, The Thing, from 1982, is a total classic, in both sci-fi and horror. John Carpenter directed it, and it's based on the story by John W. Campbell Jr., called Who Goes There? The movie is famous for its crazy special effects, super suspenseful atmosphere, and the mind games it plays on you with paranoia and being stuck way out in the middle of nowhere. It all starts down in Antarctica, where things are already pretty creepy with all the ice and isolation. Then, this helicopter chase ends with a dog showing up at an American research station. Things get even weirder when they investigate a nearby Norwegian station and find it trashed, with some dead guys and a super messed up looking creature. They take that creature back to their station, and that's exactly where they messed up big time. This thing turns out to be an alien that can turn into anyone or anything. Nobody trusts anyone anymore, because anyone could be an alien. The director John Carpenter does an amazing job of keeping you on the edge of your seat the whole time. The whole research station feels claustrophobic, and being stuck in Antarctica with this monster on the loose is seriously messed up. The actors are all great too, especially Kurt Russell. He plays this pilot named McReady, who's pretty much the only one determined to stop this thing. The special effects in this movie are amazing, even by today's standards. They used all sorts of techniques to make the alien look like it was turning into all these different things. It's pretty gross, but in a cool way. When it first came out, The Thing wasn't that popular. People were more into happy alien movies like E.T., but over time, everyone realized how awesome it is. V, 1983. Imagine this. Giant alien spaceships show up over major cities and everyone's like, hey, new neighbors. These aliens called visitors are super nice at first. They need some stuff from Earth, offer cool tech in return, and their leader, John, is as charming as heck. They even wear sunglasses all the time. Maybe a fashion statement? But here's the twist. These visitors are actually creepy lizard people with a not-so-friendly plan. A journalist named Mike Donovan stumbles onto their secret and joins a resistant movement. V isn't just about laser battles, though. It's about how these visitors take control using media and fear to turn people against each other. The special effects might be a bit dated now, but they still got the job done. Spaceships are cool, and lizard people are creepy, no matter what decade it is. V is also about people coming together despite their differences. In the face of these alien jerks, everyone has to put aside their squabbles and fight for Earth. This miniseries was a big deal back in the day, and it even spawned sequels and a remake. It's a classic sci-fi story that makes you think, and maybe a little paranoid about those sunglasses wearing folks you see on the bus. The Blob, 1988. Imagine a regular small town getting trashed by a giant blob of goo. Not cool, right? The Blob from 1988 is actually a remake, but this one is all about special effects and gooey chills. It all starts with a meteorite crash, and of course, some creepy stuff oozes out. This blob eats anything it touches, growing bigger and grosser by the minute. 3 high schoolers stumble onto the mess and become monster fighters. Think teens versus a bad case of spilled slime. Things get wild as the blob attacks a diner, a movie theater, and pretty much anywhere else it can squeeze its gooey form. The military gets involved, but let's say they're not exactly the heroes in this story. The blob itself is pretty terrifying, all tentacles and slime. It just keeps growing and eating, leaving a trail of screams in its wake. The movie is full of suspense, with the characters constantly on the run from this unstoppable blob. Even though it didn't make a ton of money at the box office, The Blob has become a cult classic.
Look! Look at them, they're everywhere!
Maybe they can see.
They Live, 1988. This movie is directed by John Carpenter and is basically a giant middle finger to consumerism and mind control. It's a world where aliens are secretly running the show, hiding in plain sight, and using subliminal messages to keep everyone buying stuff, obeying orders, and never questioning anything. That's the messed up world our hero, Nada, played by wrestler Roddy Piper, stumbles into when he finds a pair of sunglasses that reveal the truth. Suddenly, Nada sees aliens everywhere. In the media, in government, probably selling you sneakers. He hooks up with a resistance movement fighting back against the alien oppressors. Think like a secret rebel group, but way cooler because they have sunglasses that show the real world. The movie is a wild mix of action, horror, and seriously funny moments. Remember that line, "I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass, and I'm all out of bubblegum." Yeah, that's from this movie. Over time, people have come to love this movie for its originality and how it makes you think. It might be a sci-fi flick with aliens, but the message about questioning authority and the power of media is totally relevant today. Plus, it's got aliens, sunglasses that show the truth, and a guy who's all out of bubblegum. What's not to love? Invaders from Mars, 1986. In the 80s, Cold War paranoia is everywhere, and aliens are like the new boogeyman. This movie, Invaders from Mars, is basically a remake of an older alien invasion flick, but with way cooler special effects. It all follows this kid David, who's super into space stuff. One day he sees a spaceship land, and things get creepy fast. His dad comes back from checking it out, acting all weird, and David soon realizes the whole town is getting taken over by aliens. But nobody believes a kid, right? Except the school nurse Linda. They team up to fight the aliens, and convince the grown-ups, including some Marines, that it's not just David's imagination running wild. The whole movie is super tense, with creepy music and a small-town vibe that makes it feel like there's nowhere to hide. The aliens themselves are pretty gross too, thanks to the special effects guy who did an awesome job for the 80s. Superman 2, 1980. Remember Superman? The dude who can fly and shoot lasers from his eyes? This movie, Superman 2 from 1980, is his next adventure. Superman's got a girlfriend now, Lois Lane. But things get complicated when bad guys from his dead home planet Krypton show up on Earth. These Kryptonians, led by the super strong General Zod, are real jerks and want to take over the world. Meanwhile, Superman's archenemy Lex Luthor escapes from prison, again, and teams up with the Kryptonians. Talk about a bad dream. Superman has to make a tough choice, be with Lois or save the planet. To be normal and kiss Lois, he gives up his powers. Big mistake. Turns out bad guys don't take vacations while you're smooching your girlfriend. Superman has to find a way to get his powers back and stop Zod and his crew from turning Earth into their new Krypton. There's a crazy fight in Metropolis, and let's just say Superman gets a workout. There's even a director's cut out there with some different scenes, but both versions are worth checking out if you want to see Superman punch some bad guys from outer space. Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988. Imagine if aliens invaded Earth, but instead of spaceships and laser guns, they came in a giant circus tent and looked like creepy clowns with bad intentions. That's basically the plot of this wacky cult classic, Killer Clowns from Outer Space, 1988. It all starts with a couple on a date who see a weird glowing tent in the woods. Curiosity gets the better of them, and let's just say they discover these killer clowns aren't here to juggle or make balloon animals. They're here to capture people with popcorn guns and cocoons made of cotton candy. Not exactly appetizing, right? No one believes the couple's story at first, except for a police officer with a crush on one of them. Meanwhile, the clowns are turning the town upside down with their twisted carnival weapons. We're talking killer shadow puppets and balloon animals that track you down. Creepy stuff. A ragtag team of teenagers, an ice cream truck owner, and the aforementioned police officer band together to fight back. It's a hilarious and horrifying showdown against these goofy-looking but deadly clowns. This movie is a total mix of horror and slapstick humor. It's kinda cheesy, but that's what makes it so fun. The special effects are more practical than fancy CGI, but they still hold up and add to the weirdness. If you're looking for something different, a movie that will make you laugh and scream at the same time, then Killer Clowns from Outer Space is totally your jam. Just maybe skip the cotton candy for a while after watching it. The Abyss, 1989. A giant American nuclear sub sinks deep in the ocean, and the government calls in a ragtag crew of deep-sea divers to find it. It's like a high-pressure rescue mission, but way cooler because it's miles underwater. Leading the dive team is this ex-couple, Lindsay, a super smart scientist, and Bud, a rough-around-the-edges foreman. They don't exactly see eye to eye, but they gotta work together down there in the pitch black. Things get weird fast. The crew stumbles upon strange malfunctions, creepy lights, and let's just say the stub isn't exactly alone. Turns out there's something else living down there. Something alien and mysterious. This movie, The Abyss, from 1989, is all about exploration, facing your fears, and maybe even making peace with some aliens. It's directed by James Cameron, the same guy who did Terminator and Titanic, so you know the visuals are mind-blowing. They used fancy computer graphics for the first time back then to create this giant water tentacle thing, and it was groundbreaking. The movie won an Oscar for its special effects, which is pretty darn impressive. But it's not just about cool underwater effects. The story explores what it means to encounter something completely unknown, and how we might react. It's kind of like a metaphor for venturing into the deep unknown parts of ourselves. There's also some serious drama between Lindsay and Bud, which adds another layer to the whole alien encounter. Plus, there's a bit of a psycho in the crew who stirs up some trouble. Critters, 1986. Fuzzy little aliens crash land in a small town in Kansas. Not cute and cuddly E.T. aliens, mind you, but these freaky furry things with a taste for brains. Yuck! These are critters, and they're like a cross between a gremlin and a hairball gone bad. The town folks are having a normal day. Cows, farms, the usual, until the critters show up and start causing mayhem. They're basically tiny monster Furby balls of teeth and destruction. We get to know the Brown family, who reside on a remote Kansas farm. Father Jay, Mother Helen, adolescent daughter April, and younger son Brad make up the family. Charlie McFadden, a former baseball pitcher who turned town drunk and crackpot, joins them. Brad and Jay immediately realize something is wrong when they find a partially eaten cow near the farm after a ship crashes into the ground. That night, the aliens launch their assault, killing a policeman in the area and disconnecting the farm's electricity. While checking the circuit breaker, Jay is attacked by one of the critters. He escapes, but with some serious injuries. Meanwhile, there are these two bounty hunters from outer space who are after the critters. The movie is a hilarious mess of these little aliens wreaking havoc. The bounty hunters causing more problems than they solve, and a regular family who just wants to survive the alien invasion. It's like a cheesy horror movie meets a goofy comedy. Critters came out in 1986, so the special effects are, well, a bit on the dated side. But that's part of the charm. It's a fun throwback to 80s sci-fi with a healthy dose of laughs and B-movie weirdness. If you're looking for a goofy monster movie with some laughs thrown in, then Critters is your jam. Just maybe avoid eating anything too furry while you watch it. Extro, 1982. Imagine this weird alien abduction movie from 1983 called Extro. A guy named Sam gets beamed up by a UFO one night, and 3 years later, a creepy half-alien seed thing pops out of the sky and starts making trouble. Things get even more messed up when a woman gets, well, not exactly pregnant by the alien seed, but let's just say it's not pretty. Sam reappears out of nowhere, but he's not quite the same. He's all messed up and weird. His wife Rachel has moved on with a new boyfriend, and their son Tony is having nightmares. This movie is full of bizarre special effects, especially when it comes to showing the whole alien thing. It's pretty scary and creepy, so be warned. The whole storyline is dark and unsettling, with a family basically going through a living nightmare. Sam's son Tony starts acting weird too, like telekinetic weird. It's all very unsettling, and makes you wonder what exactly happened to Sam up there with those aliens. Extro is more like a mindbender with a creepy alien twist. It's definitely a cult classic for horror fans, who like their sci-fi disturbing and strange. The ending is pretty messed up too. Strange Invaders, 1983. What if aliens invaded a small town in the 50s, but instead of giant spaceships and laser guns, they just took over people's bodies like creepy costumes? That's the basic plot of this wacky 80s sci-fi flick called Strange Invaders. The story begins in 1958 in the fictional town of Centerville, Illinois, where extraterrestrial aliens invade and covertly take over the town by transforming humans into crystallized blue orbs and assuming their forms. Flash forward to the 80s, a college professor visits the town and realizes everyone is stuck in a 50s time warp, like a giant diner and poodle skirt convention. He starts digging around and uncovers the whole alien body snatcher thing. Our hero teams up with a reporter, and together they dodge bad-haired aliens in this town frozen in time. The special effects are, well, let's just say they're more charming than scary these days. But hey, that's part of the fun. In the end, they escape in an outrageous way. The Deadly Spawn, 1983. Imagine a goofy 80s horror flick where a meteor crash lands, and instead of friendly ETs, it unleashes slimy, gross alien monsters. That's basically the Deadly Spawn. The story starts when the alien lifeform attacks and consumes two campers close to the crash site. In the meantime, the family in a nearby home is ignorant of the threat that could be present in their basement. The mother Barb and father Sam are the first to come into contact with the terrifying creature and suffer a horrific fate. The alien threat is left to be faced by their children, Pete, a college student and aspiring scientist, and Charles, as well as their visiting relatives. The creature's lack of eyes and ability to react to sound heightens the suspense in the movie, as Charles figures out how to get away from them. This finding becomes vital when slug-like creatures start to invade the house. These creatures are all under the protection of their enormous mother, the original alien from the meteor crash. The special effects are pretty hilarious by today's standards. Think puppets on strings and lots of fake slime. But that's the charm. The plot is pretty straightforward. Aliens show up, people scream, monsters get squished. But it's all done with a surprising amount of heart, especially with Charles' character. Plus, there's a bit of science fiction thrown in, with Charles using his monster movie knowledge to figure out how to beat the slimy invaders. Marvelous verdict. Looks like the 80s were all about aliens invading Earth, slimy pods, and lizard people in disguise. Yikes. These movies are like 4 decades old, but the special effects and entertainment are still commendable. So for your next movie night, ditch the rom-com and blast back to the 80s with our list of alien invasion movies. Do you think there are any more such movies that we've missed? Tell us in the comments. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone!